Most people will agree the bond between siblings is often extreme. Immense love and often intense fighting too. On today's episode, we speak to some wonderful mums on the decisions they made on whether to have one or more children and why, on preparing one sibling for the next, sibling bonds, rivalry and more.
If they're both fighting, I ask the other one, how should we punish the other one? And you will be surprised that they don't want to punish their own sibling.
Then a peek into my relationship with my sister and the bond between two little brothers, Zen and Kai. And finally, a chat with the lovely Adhuna Akhtar and how her superstar husband Farhan and her bring up their two daughters. Having two kids, what are they like as siblings? Are they close? Do they fight?
My children are so far apart in their age gap. So Shakya was very, very keen to have a sibling, and if it wasn't a girl, she was sending it back.
Really?
So
Let's hear different views on raising siblings. So, Manjari, starting with you. 3 kids.
Yeah.
How do you manage?
Badly. It's hands full, and I'm very lucky. I have a lot of help. My mom-in-law is very involved. My husband's very hands-on.
Yeah, so infrastructure and help makes a big difference.
Big difference.
Mansi, did you plan on having 2?
I was very sure I wanted 2 kids and I wanted both to be girls, which I was very fortunate that I had both of them. But yeah, I keep telling this to all my friends that it's a completely personal decision and it's a lot of work as well. Yeah. So you better, it's got to be a conscious decision. You can't just have another baby. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Kiran, you have 1. Was that something you decided before you had him?
It wasn't something I decided, Tara. It's just something that happened.
Right.
And at times I regret it. At times I think, oh God, I wouldn't be able to handle one more of this. So I'm good.
But do you think there are times when he gets lonely, or do you think he has enough friends and social...
He's a very social child, so that doesn't happen with him. I mean, and we stay, and I've consciously chosen a very large apartment complex with many buildings and lots of kids in it.
Kids, yeah.
So he's busy, he's happy. Occasionally he does come up with, can I have a baby brother? Okay, then can I have a dog? That.
Yeah. So Manjari, the dynamic of 3 kids, do you think one of them ever feels left out, or do you sometimes have to consciously make sure that you give them all sort of equal time?
It's not possible, even with 2, I feel, or more, that you can give each one exactly the same amount of time or attention at the same time. Right? It balances out over a period. And we have a big thing in our house of turn by turn. Everything is turn by turn. But of course, there are times when one child needs more attention. Yeah. And then you have to give it. And the others understand because they know when they need more attention, they get it too.
But do you think that one sort of gets favored?
You have to consciously make sure there's no favoring because then the dynamics can become very nasty.
Yes.
I think it's also important, like she said, that everybody knows that, this child now has exclusive time and this child now has exclusive time. So I have, consciously try to do that while my older one is away, I will give my younger one a lot more time or pick their classes in a way that, while I'm with one, the other one kind of, gets time while she's busy with a class or whatever. And I think also staying in a joint family makes a huge difference. The child is not vying only for my attention. Right. So in my case, that has paid off brilliantly. Even while I was at the hospital delivering my younger one, my older one wasn't insecure of sorts that, oh, mom's away. Because she had dadi, she had dad, she had dada, she had, bua, somebody to take care of her all the time.
Right. I think my problem with the attention is to make sure I don't give him too much attention.
Too much, yeah.
Because it's very tempting to give him all the attention. He has to know that he's not the focus of everyone's world.
So do you manage to balance your attention between him and your husband, or who gets more?
I think my books get more attention, but they get as much as they need and nothing more than that.
Yeah. What about age gaps? Do you feel a close age gap helps with siblings, or do you think it's better to have a bigger age gap?
I feel if the age gap is less, it's tougher on the parents in the beginning, but for the siblings, the older one grows up not remembering a period when the younger one wasn't there, number one. Number 2, they've always had each other. Yeah. And after a certain age, they're companions for each other.
What about rivalry? Do you find your kids, because they're quite close in age, right?
I think because they're both girls, I think the older one almost kind of mothers the younger one. There is rivalry to the extent that the younger one kind of grows up that she has to just fight for everything. Everything doesn't come to her first, be it right from clothes to shoes to, just about everything is always passed on. So I think in that sense, she kind of tries to grapple her way through things. If they're both fighting, I ask the other one, how should we punish the other one? And you will be surprised that they don't want to punish their own siblings.
Oh, I should try that. I don't know.
So, you know, if you try to
This is a good one.
just try and flip it, and they'll just be so protective of each other, they'll suddenly say, no, let's not do this, you know, it's not nice to do it.
Settlement out of court.
Settle. They're always...
And tell me, with twins, how does it work, the dynamic, as in with your elder son, when you could honestly give all your time to one? Now, not just do you have another, you have a pair.
So right in the beginning, what a child needs is lots of cuddles and food at the right time. So as long as that was being taken care of, you know, if I wasn't able to give as much cuddle time as I gave to my older one, it was still okay. I made sure I was spending enough time with him in the initial few months till he got used to having them there. Yeah. But between them, there is some amount of rivalry. But at the same time, if I scold one, the other one will start doing exactly what I'm scolding the first one for, because she doesn't want the first one to be scolded. Both of them do it. So, you know, there is rivalry, but there's a huge bond between all three. So
How did you prepare your elder one for the little ones?
Just told him we're going to have 2 new babies in the house, and he was quite happy about it, actually.
And in your case?
She was there with me everywhere. So my doctor checkups, hospital visits, blood tests, all of it. So I think she was being prepared in that way. And I would say that just keep them involved with everything that you're doing.
Is there any tip or anything you'd like to say to mums out there who might be deciding what to do, what age gap to have, how many kids to have?
The most important thing is your child needs to feel loved and secure. I think that's the baseline, and that's what determines whether you're going to have a happy, secure child at the end of it.
There's a stage in life for everything. I mean, it's not so difficult to have a second child. In fact, I'm sure Manjari agrees that the second one just makes the first one a lot easier. And I didn't have my second one for my first one. I had my second one because I wanted a second one. So weigh your pros and cons, decide if it works for you. And if it does, then...
I'd like to take off from where Mansi left off. Have your second baby or your third baby because you want another child. Don't have it because people keep telling you your child needs a sibling. Have a child if you are ready to deal with a second child. If you feel you can give that child all the attention, all the resources you can provide.
Absolutely. Great advice again. So on that note, thank you, mummies, so much for being here. It was really lovely. And maybe we'll see some of you with more little ones. Coming up next, the dynamic between my sister and me and how it changed after we became mums. Then a look at how we prepared Zen for the arrival of his baby brother and the bond they share. And finally, a chat with the lovely Adhuna Akhtar and her take on siblings. My sister and I have always been close, but like all siblings, in our relationship there was as much love as there were fights. As we grew, the fights lessened. And now that we're both mums, the bond we share is a little different and in a way stronger. The age gap between our kids, Zen and Kai, is just under 2 years, so they are quite close in age. As always, I say each to their own when it comes to how many children a couple chooses to have or the age gap between siblings. Everyone's situation is different, so you have to do what works for you. In our case, this close age gap has meant Zen and Kai are very close to each other and do most things together. In fact, I don't think Zen remembers a time when he was without Kai, so there doesn't seem to be any resentment. When I was pregnant, Zen was just 1.5, and I am grateful that our pediatrician advised me to always involve Zen in all things to do with the baby, so he wouldn't feel left out or resentful. I took the advice on board, and right from the time I was pregnant, I would say to Zen, "Your little sibling is in my tummy." Some books and friends had worried me that the older children can behave a little oddly when the little ones arrive. But to our great joy and surprise, Zen was thrilled when Kai arrived and he seemed quite unperturbed. I think this allowing him to be part of everything helped. I in fact think in many ways as a mum I focused more on the older child because Kai being so little wasn't really aware. A lot of people say they do this and I think it is something that can help. As a dad, Rupak also played a big role in making sure Zen didn't feel slighted by occupying him with daddy things to do too. Grandparents too helped ease the new member of our family in joyfully. As parents, we try and treat both children equally. If we praise one, we praise the other. If we punish one, we punish the other. if that one's involved, of course. Our parents did this with us too, and I think most of us parents do this. Now, of course, with our boys aged 5 and 3, our home is often like a circus or a boxing ring. They love each other to bits, but like any siblings, there are also lots of little fights. And in fact, as Kajol said on our tete-a-tete, being the mum of 2 kids is often like being a referee.
Zen! Please, Zen. Zen, stop it.
And I have to admit, very often I feel that's the role I play. We've added to our brood with a little puppy, so you can imagine the chaos. But as most parents of siblings will say, this chaos adds to the joy and the incredible bond the kids share. A mompreneur who started one of the most successful hairdressing salons in the country, she's also married to the multi-talented star Farhan Akhtar. A chat now with the lovely and very talented Adhuna Akhtar about how she raises her 2 kids, about siblings and lots more. Thank you so much, Od, for being on the show. So, Od, how did you feel when you first became a mom?
When you see your child for the first time, you understand what love really is at that point in your life. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I think it's very different. I think the fact that it's, I don't know, it's a huge realization of what lies ahead.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, it's a moment, I think, overwhelming because there's so much emotion. There's love, there's responsibility.
What happens is, though, the baby, and it certainly happened with my experience, is that the children led the way. They teach you how to do stuff. So that's...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what about as parents, who's the good cop and the bad cop?
We really try and back each other up as much as we can. But we always have encouraged like a very open discussion, so there's no secrets really.
Yeah.
And I think that works. It's more, perhaps a bit more confrontational, but it allows everybody to voice their opinion, and I think everybody's is entitled to their opinion.
Absolutely.
But I think when we have to put our foot down, I will say something and Farhan will always reinforce what I say.
Yes, both you and Farhan are very successful in what you do. Because you're both such strong figures, do you think that sometimes the kids, do you think they want to follow that path, or do you think they're very independent in what they want to do?
I think we are the least cool people in their lives right now, actually.
Really?
They are very independent. Fiercely so, my elder daughter, Shakya, who's now 14. And Akira, who's just 7.5, she's also got this very fiercely strong character and personality, but without wanting to sound cliched, we really seriously want them to do something that makes them happy. I feel like a mama's job is to be a referee and to be kind of equally balanced so that one doesn't feel any more love than the other, or vice versa.
Having 2 kids who are 6.5 years apart, what are they like as siblings? Are they close? Do they fight? Are you a referee? Because I remember you said that once, which I quote you all the time.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like a mama's job is to be a referee and to be kind of equally balanced so that one doesn't feel any more love than the other, or vice versa. So, yeah, it's a refereeing job. I think because my children are so far apart in their age gap, I think it was a little easier than perhaps your situation.
Yeah,
and 2 girls versus 2 boys is a different kind of chemistry altogether. So Shakya was very, very keen to have a sibling, and if it wasn't a girl, she was sending it back.
Really?
So at the time, it was great because she was thrilled about it. We were obviously thrilled about it. And Akira got a very big, warm welcome. And I think because I had to spend so much time with Akira at that stage in her life, the rest of the family all really rallied round and made sure that Shakya, who'd been the only child
for
on
a long
both
time.
sides of the family, So everybody rallied round and made her feel good. So, and then later on, obviously, the little pinches that happen under the table
Started.
as their relationship builds together, you know. But generally, Shakya is very, very protective of Akira. I think she would really step up for her, but they're not stuck together all the time. They have their own sets of friends. They have their own sets of things to do. And then the usual, you know, if the one wants to borrow something of the others, then it's like, but then what will you give me? And these barters kind of go on, you know?
And you're part of a set of twins.
That's right.
And you have a younger brother. So
That's
you're
right.
actually part of 3. So do you find that your kids do things that you did as kids? Or?
Absolutely.
So you can see bits
That's
of...
the mirror image you get of yourself, and you're like, oh. So yeah, many times, many scenarios, I see stuff that we have done repeating itself.
As kids of celebrities, do you think the children are aware of this? Do you talk to them about it?
We don't, but I think other people do, which is, it goes a little bit out of your control.
Yeah.
So they eventually, as with all children, end up forming their own opinion anyway.
Yeah.
I think for Akira, who's the younger one, so Farhan had already started this process.
Yeah.
When Shakya was born, the process had just begun.
Yeah.
So for her, it was kind of a natural progression. She doesn't really watch any Indian films specifically. She'll watch Farhan's films, maybe sometimes, not always. Akira, however, watches the films and gets very affected by some of the scenes. So yeah, it's a tricky one. I think we'll have to learn to cope with different scenarios as they arise.
So, Odd, is there anything you'd like to say to other moms, other parents out there about being a mom?
I think the one thing that when you become a parent, the thing that I found the most irritating is that everybody wants to offer you advice.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Whether you ask for that advice or not.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit here and give any kind of sermon. I think you have to follow your gut and listen to your gut. And the way it's worked for me so far is that I've followed the lead that my children take and have tried to guide them from whatever I know and have learned in my life.
No, that's wonderful, and I completely agree. One of the reasons I started the show was I felt no one gets more advice than a pregnant woman and a young mom. But I think what you've just said to me is really interesting about how the kids actually show us the way and teach us the kind of parents we should be or that we are. So, Odd, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Part of Wikipedia's definition of sibling says, the bond between siblings can be complicated and is influenced by factors such as parental treatment, birth order, personality, and personal experiences outside the family. Our discussions on today's episode reiterate this and show how important our role is as parents in trying to make sure we bring up siblings as best we can. Coming up next week, a difficult but necessary discussion on child sex abuse awareness and sex education. We spoke to some people about why sex education is essential and the right time to teach your kids about it. And an eye-opening discussion with Lilette Dubé, who directed a play about child sex abuse. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Tara Sharma Show. And do keep writing in to our social media platforms and interacting with me. I'd love to hear your views on all this and more.